My name is Emma Caldwell. I'm 24, and for most of my life, I've been the invisible one in my family. The one who doesn't matter. You see, my parents, Ryan and Patricia Turner, they've made it crystal clear I'm adopted. I don't belong. No inheritance, no love, just nothing. They told me that repeatedly, every chance they got. But then, on a random Tuesday, just when I thought I had finally accepted my fate, everything changed. The phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, and I almost let it go to voicemail. I was busy working my double shift at a rundown coffee shop, drenched in syrup, surrounded by machines that barely worked, and customers who didn't even know my name. It felt like the world was always just passing me by. But for some reason, I picked up. "Is this Emma Caldwell?" the woman on the other end asked. Her voice was sharp, professional. It made me straighten up, even though I was still wearing that disgusting apron stained with coffee and sugar. I tried to sound like a grown-up, but I probably still sounded like a tired barista. "Yes, this is she," I replied, wiping my hand on my jeans. "My name is Margaret Stevens," she continued, "and I'm representing the estate of the late Eleanora Caldwell. I realize her funeral was 6 months ago, and I apologize for the delay, but some matters took longer to settle than we expected. I need to speak with you as soon as possible." Eleanora, my grandma. I felt my heart drop. Her name had been a ghost, something I buried in the past. She was the only one who ever made me feel important. The only one who ever told me I wasn't just a footnote in my family's story. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "I think there's been a mistake," I stammered. "My parents, they told me, very clearly, I wasn't included in her will." There was a pause on the line, a long one. It felt like the silence stretched on forever. "Ms. Caldwell," she finally said, her tone softer, but still unyielding. "I can assure you, there's no mistake. What your parents told you, and what is in your grandmother's will, are two very different things." I was frozen. What do you even say to that? I couldn't even process it. The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I just stared at the counter, my mind racing, trying to make sense of everything. "Can you come to my office at 4 Hauserie this afternoon?" she asked. I glanced up at the clock behind the counter. My shift didn't end until 6, but in that moment, everything around me seemed to blur. The espresso machines, the endless line of customers, it all felt so far away. "Yes," I said before I could stop myself. "I'll be there." I barely remembered driving to Margaret's office. My car, a 2008 Civic that had more check engine lights than I could count, sputtered along the road, and my mind was spinning with thoughts I couldn't quite catch. I was suddenly 10 years old again, sitting at a birthday party at my half-sister Olivia's house. The walls were plastered with pink balloons. Kids were running around shrieking, and I was desperate to join them. But Patricia Turner, the woman I was forced to call Mom, intercepted me. She put a hand on my shoulder. The same cold, unfeeling hand she had placed there so many times before. "Emma, honey, the dishes aren't going to wash themselves," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You need to help out in the kitchen." I looked over at my dad, Ryan, who was standing by the fireplace, talking to another parent, his back to me. He didn't even look at me. He never did. I was too small, too insignificant. I was a ghost in my own family, and it was becoming clearer by the day. But now, everything felt different. What if my grandma, Eleanora, had seen what they'd done to me? What if she had left me something real, something that might make me feel like I finally belonged? Or was this just another cruel joke? I shook my head, trying to focus on the road ahead, but the weight of it all, it was hard to ignore. I pulled into the parking lot of Margaret Stevens' office building, a fancy, corporate-looking building that made me feel completely out of place. I parked my car, grabbed my bag, and walked inside. The lobby was full of polished marble floors and sleek, modern furniture. I felt like a fish out of water. I sat in a chair, my hands trembling, trying to control my breathing. What was happening? Was this real? The receptionist led me to Margaret's office, a room that smelled like expensive leather and old books. Margaret was sitting behind a massive mahogany desk. Her office was immaculate, nothing like my tiny, cluttered apartment or the coffee-stained counter I had just left behind. "Thank you for coming on such short notice, Emma," Margaret said, folding her hands in front of her on the desk. She didn't look at me like I was out of place. She didn't judge me for my worn jeans or the scuffed shoes on my feet. I swallowed. "Of course. You said something about my grandmother's will." Margaret slid a thick document across the desk, and I instantly recognized the blue cover, my grandmother's signature color. "This is the will of Eleanora Caldwell," Margaret explained. "To be precise, your grandmother has left you the entirety of her residual estate. That includes her home on O'Haven Road, all of her stocks and investments, and a liquid inheritance of $3.5 million. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. $3.5 million. I tried to make sense of the words in front of me. It felt like reading a foreign language. This couldn't be real. This had to be a mistake. My mind was reeling. $3 million, I whispered, barely able to say the words. Margaret nodded calmly, but I couldn't catch my breath. My mind was racing. This wasn't supposed to be my reality. I had always been the one who got nothing. My parents made sure of that. This had to be a cruel joke, right? "Your parents," I started, my voice cracking. "They told me I wasn't included. They said she cut me out after the divorce." Margaret's expression softened, but there was something almost imperceptible in the way she looked at me. A sense of sympathy mixed with something else, something more, knowing. "Ms. Caldwell," she said quietly, "I can assure you, your parents are mistaken. What they told you and what's in this will are very different things." I didn't know what to do. This was all too much, too fast. How could my grandmother, the only person who ever truly loved me, leave me everything? Why didn't she tell me? Why didn't she prepare me for this moment? Before I could even ask more questions, Margaret's voice broke through my haze. "You'll need to read through everything carefully. Emma," she said, "there are details in the will that your parents might not be too happy about. And once you know what's in it, there's no going back." I nodded, but deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. The drive to Margaret's office was a blur. As my mind raced with 1,000 questions, I was barely able to focus on the road. The old Civic rattling under me, the engine's low hum barely enough to drown out the storm of thoughts in my head. I kept glancing at the screen of my phone, the notification from Margaret blinking back at me, as though she knew something I didn't, something I needed to find out. The weight of the letter I'd just received felt heavy in my lap. It wasn't just a letter about money. It was a letter that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. Everything I thought I knew about myself. I'd grown up in a house where everything I did was either unnoticed or ridiculed. My dad, Ryan, was a successful attorney, and my mom, Patricia Turner, did everything in her power to make sure I knew I wasn't the golden child. My brother, Derek Harris, he was perfect in their eyes, always had been, a high-flying corporate guy, charismatic, with the kind of resume that made you believe he was destined for greatness. They always talked about him like he was going to inherit everything. And me, I was the adopted one, the one who didn't really belong. I was always aware of it. They never let me forget. Every time something good happened to Derek Harris, I'd hear about how much more he deserved it. He was the one who earned their approval, the one who was praised for every little achievement. It wasn't that they hated me, no. They just didn't see me. I was nothing more than a shadow in the background of their perfect family portrait. I pull into the parking lot of Margaret's office building, It's nothing fancy, just another glass tower looming over the street. But compared to my cramped apartment, it feels like a whole new world. The kind of world I thought I'd never belong to. The kind that only people like my parents and Derek Harris lived in. I push open the door to the building and take the elevator up to Margaret's floor. Each step seems heavier than the last. My heart pounds in my chest. But it's not from fear. It's from something else, something that feels like power building inside me. I don't know what I'll find when I sit down in front of her. But I know one thing for sure. I'm about to find out everything. And I'm not backing down. Margaret's office is cold. It smells like old leather and polished wood. There are no personal touches, no family photos, just sharp edges and expensive decor. I hate it. It feels like a place for people who already have everything. Margaret herself is exactly what I imagined, a polished professional with a quiet authority. She doesn't judge me for my worn jeans or the way my hair is a mess from the wind. She's calm, composed, and doesn't seem at all fazed by my presence. "Thank you for coming. Emma," she says, her voice measured but kind. "Please, sit down." I do, hesitantly, eyeing the thick, leather-bound document she slides across the table toward me. My hands are shaking. This is it. This is everything I've been waiting for. I look down at the document, my fingers hovering over it. I can feel the weight of this moment, and I can almost hear my parents' voices in my head. "You don't belong. You don't get anything from us. You're lucky to have a roof over your head." The words sting like they always did. But this is different. This is my chance, the first real chance I've ever had to prove them wrong. I slowly open the will, scanning the first few lines. My eyes catch something that makes my heart skip. "To my granddaughter, Emma Caldwell." I pause. It doesn't feel real. I reread the words, then look up at Margaret, searching for any sign that this is some kind of mistake. But her expression is as unreadable as the document in front of me. "I know this is a lot to take in," Margaret says, noticing my disbelief. "But Eleonora was very clear in her will. She left you everything, the house, the investments, everything she had. She even specifically excluded your parents." The room around me blurs. My mind can barely process what she just said. My parents. The ones who told me I was nothing excluded. From the will, I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of questions. "What? What do you mean?" I ask, my voice barely a whisper. "Why would she leave everything to me?" Margaret leans back in her chair, folding her hands. "Your grandmother was very methodical in her decisions. Emma, she knew about the dynamics in your family. She saw how you were treated. She understood that your parents had made it clear that you weren't part of their legacy." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. It's not just the inheritance. It's not just about the house and the money. It's the confirmation of everything I've always known, but never said aloud my family didn't want me. They saw me as disposable. And yet, Eleonora, my grandmother, she saw me. She knew me. She understood. I sit back in my chair, my head spinning. It feels surreal. Everything I thought I knew, everything I believed about my family, is crumbling around me. "You mentioned my parents," I say, trying to steady my voice. "What does this mean for them? Do they have any claim to it?" Margaret looks at me seriously. "It means they'll have to prove their claim in court, if they try. But your grandmother was very clear. She excluded them because of the way they treated you. They won't have an easy time trying to challenge this." I can barely breathe. My parents have no idea what's coming. No idea that the one thing they've always tried to keep from me, the one thing I've always wanted, has been given to me by someone who truly understood my worth. "Then why didn't she tell me?" I ask, more to myself than to Margaret. Margaret leans forward, her voice soft. I believe your grandmother wanted you to come into your own first. She wanted you to be ready. That hits me like a slap. Ready. For what? To face my family, to stand up to them, to take what's mine. It sounds so simple when she says it, but I can feel the weight of the battle ahead. I grab the will and start to stand, feeling the weight of it in my hands. This is it. My entire life has been leading to this moment. And I'm not going to let anyone take this from me, not even my family. As I turn to leave, Margaret's voice stops me. Emma, she says, her tone serious. You need to be careful. There's more at play here than just an inheritance. Your parents will fight you, and they'll stop at nothing to protect their own image. I turn to face her, my heart pounding. What are you saying? What do I need to watch out for? Margaret doesn't respond immediately. Instead, she picks up a file from her desk and hands it to me. Just read this. You'll understand. Your grandmother wasn't the only one who kept secrets. I look down at the file, my fingers trembling as I take it. What's inside? What am I about to uncover? I sit in my car, staring at the file Margaret handed me. My hands are trembling. The cold winter air bites at my skin as I grip the steering wheel with white-knuckled fingers. I know I should go home, but my mind won't let me. I can't. I won't let this slip away. Not after everything. I glance at the clock on the dashboard. 6:15 p.m. Another night where my shift at the coffee shop is dragging on and I'm still just stuck. Every day feels like the last. When will my life be something more? Something that matters? The file rests on the passenger seat. I could open it. I could look at it right now and figure out what secrets it holds. But I can't bring myself to. Not yet. I need to prepare for what's coming. I need to understand it all. Because I know deep down I won't be able to walk away from this. The next day at work feels endless. The coffee shop is bustling with customers who don't even notice me. The barista who doesn't matter. It's like being invisible on a stage where everyone else is getting the applause. It's suffocating. Derek Harris's face pops into my mind. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's always been the one who could do no wrong. He's the one everyone looks up to. The golden boy. The one who always gets what he wants. And then there's me, the afterthought, the mistake. But that's changing now. I can feel it. Margaret said my parents would fight me. She said they would do anything to keep the inheritance away from me. But I didn't believe it, at least not until I saw the file, until I saw the damning details inside it. The will wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about the property, the stocks, the investments. No, my grandmother had known everything. She saw the manipulation, the control, the way my parents treated me like an outsider. She saw how Derek Harris was the golden child, and I was, well, nothing. But she left me the legacy. She saw me. And now, it was my turn to show the world what I was made of. After my shift, I make my way home. The apartment feels even smaller than usual. The walls closing in on me. The same walls where I'd sat for so many years. Watching my parents pretend like I wasn't there. Watching them act like I didn't matter. I rip open the envelope and pull out the documents. My hands are shaking again, but this time, it's not fear, it's something else. I turn the first page, and there it is, my grandmother's signature. Her handwriting is neat, precise, as if she'd written it just for me. My heart pounds in my chest. To my granddaughter, Emma Caldwell. The words read, I leave you everything. The house on O'Haven Road, my investments, and a liquid inheritance of $3.5 million. It is my hope that you will use this to find your place in the world, far away from those who never truly understood you. Boom! It hits me like a freight train. The words seem to jump off the page, a direct punch to everything I'd ever known. I can feel my breath catch in my chest. But I keep reading. And that's when I find it, the final line. The one that makes everything fall into place. I leave the rest of my estate to you, Emma, because you are the only one in this family who has the strength to stand up for what is right. You have always known that you deserve more, and I have made sure that you will have it. Tears sting my eyes, but I won't let them fall. Not now, not when everything is changing, not when this is finally my moment. The next day, I don't even bother showing up to the coffee shop. I need to make my next move. I can't stay stuck in the same place any longer. I need to confront my parents. They've been getting away with so much for so long. And now it's time for them to see that I'm not the naive little girl they think I am. I knock on the door to my parents' house, the place where I've spent years trying to prove myself. The same house that's full of memories, ones I wish I could forget. I've never felt more out of place than when I was here. But today feels different. The door swings open, and there stands my father, Ryan Caldwell, the man who's always been cold, distant, and utterly unyielding. Emma. His voice is guarded, as though he's already bracing for something. Hi, Dad, I say, keeping my voice steady. Can we talk? He doesn't answer immediately. His eyes flicker down to the envelope I'm holding in my hand. He knows. I can see it in the way his posture stiffens. What's this about? He asks, his voice clipped. I step inside without waiting for an invitation, walking past him and into the living room. The house is exactly as I remember, everything meticulously arranged, everything in its place. But it all feels empty. This isn't a home. It's a show. I have read the will, I say, my voice calm but firm. You know, the one where my grandmother left me everything. His face twitches, but he doesn't say anything. His silence speaks louder than words. I don't know why you thought you could keep me out of it, I continue, letting the anger slowly creep into my tone. You've always treated me like I was invisible. But I'm not invisible anymore. Dad, I never was. I hold the envelope up. You can't control this. You can't control me. I can feel the tension in the room thickening. The air's so still I can almost hear his thoughts. He's trying to come up with something to say, but nothing he says will change the facts. I stand in front of him, waiting for a response, and that's when Derek Harris walks in. He stands in the doorway, looking at me like I'm a stranger in this house. His smile is thin, forced. Emma, he says, his voice dripping with fake sweetness. What's all this about? I turn to face him, my fists clenched, the golden child, the one who always got what he wanted, always had everything handed to him. But now I'm the one with the power. It's about time we had this conversation, don't you think I say? Barely able to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Derek Harris just stands there, silent. But I can see the cracks forming. The perfect mask he's worn all these years is starting to slip. Before anyone can say anything more, the doorbell rings. My heart skips a beat. I wasn't expecting anyone else. But when I open the door, standing there in the hallway, is someone I never thought I'd see again, someone I thought was long gone. And they're holding something that could change everything. The door creaks open. My heart thuds in my chest, louder than the silence between us. There, standing on the threshold, is someone I never thought I'd see again. It's Aunt Laura, my mother's younger sister, the one who always seemed to have it all together, the one who was a constant presence at family gatherings, always organizing, always making sure the right people got what they wanted. She's holding a large envelope, the kind that's too thick to be something casual. I try to keep my face neutral, but my mind is racing. Why is she here? What does she want? Her eyes flicker over my shoulder, landing on my father and Derek Harris, who have both gone unnervingly quiet. I step aside, letting her in. She brushes past me without a word, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor like a countdown to something inevitable. I don't trust her. I never have. She's always been part of the family who kept their distance from me, always standing by and never questioning my parents' decisions. Always the picture of calm, even when I was drowning in silence. Aunt Laura looks at my father and Derek Harris before her gaze settles back on me. She doesn't smile. She never smiles, not truly. "Emma," she begins, her voice soft but sharp, like a blade wrapped in velvet. "We need to talk." She places the envelope down on the coffee table, and for a moment, the room feels like it's holding its breath. I sit down across from her, feeling the weight of everything I've just uncovered pressing against me. My grandmother's will, the house, the money, my inheritance. It's all sitting here, in my lap, but it doesn't feel like the victory I thought it would be. Aunt Laura doesn't waste any time. She picks up the envelope, opens it, and slides a document across the table toward me. "This is from your grandmother," she says, her voice eerily calm. "It's complicated." I look down at the paper. The legal jargon swims in front of my eyes, but I don't need to read it to know what it is. Another will, another twist. Aunt Laura watches me closely, her fingers tapping lightly on the table. I see her eyes flicker to my father, then back to me. There's something about the way she's acting something off, but I can't put my finger on it yet. "Your grandmother knew what was going on in this family," she continues, her voice barely above a whisper. "She was very clear about who she wanted to inherit her estate." I stare at her, waiting for the next shoe to drop. "Why didn't you tell me about this before?" I ask, my voice tight with anger. "Why are you just giving this to me now?" She doesn't flinch. In fact, she almost seems to expect my question. "Because you weren't ready," she replies coolly, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Eleonora had her reasons. She knew you weren't prepared for the truth." The truth. Those words hit me like a ton of bricks. What truth? What was so important that my grandmother couldn't have told me herself? Aunt Laura continues, and for the first time, I realize she's not just here to talk about the inheritance. There's something else, something bigger at play. "Emma," she says, her voice lowering, "your grandmother left you the house, the money, the investments. But there's one thing she didn't account for." My pulse quickens. "Your parents will fight you," she says simply. "They won't let you have it, not without a fight. You see, your inheritance doesn't just involve money. It involves the family's legacy. Your father won't let that go without tearing everything apart." I swallow hard. The weight of her words hangs in the air, like smoke from a fire that hasn't yet burned out. "You think I don't know that?" I reply, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know what they're capable of, but this is mine. It always was. My grandmother left me this for a reason. I'm not backing down." Aunt Laura tilts her head, almost as if she's studying me. "I'm not telling you this to scare you," she says, her tone more serious now. "But you need to understand what you're walking into. If you push your parents too hard, they will destroy you, and they'll destroy anyone who gets in their way. That includes me." The words hit like a sucker punch. Destroy me, the people I've spent my entire life trying to impress my parents. My brother are willing to go that far, to tear everything apart, just to keep what they think is rightfully theirs. My mind flashes back to my childhood, the way Derek Harris was always the golden child, the way my parents would look at me with those disappointed, cold eyes. I was always the problem child, the one who didn't fit in. I have spent my whole life trying to earn their love, their approval, and now I'm supposed to take what's mine, even if it means they'll turn on me completely. It's a scary thought, but something inside me, something I didn't know was there, pushes back. "I don't care what they think anymore," I say, my voice sharper than I expected. "This is mine, and I'm taking it." Aunt Laura leans back in her chair, eyeing me closely. "You need to be smart about this. Emma, you have to play this game carefully. Your grandmother knew how to play the game. And now, so do you." Her words hang in the air, but I don't have time to process them. My mind is already racing. The game. What game? How far are they willing to go to keep me from what's rightfully mine? As Aunt Laura stands to leave, I feel the walls of the room closing in. "You have a choice, Emma," she says softly, her voice a low warning. "Make it wisely." The door closes behind her with a soft click. I sit there, stunned, the weight of her words sinking in. A game. What does she mean by that? I look down at the second will this time, one that's more than just a legal document. It's a ticking time bomb, and I have no idea what will happen when it finally explodes. But one thing is clear. I'm not going to back down. I'm in this now, and I'll do whatever it takes to win. But what will it cost me? And who will I have to betray to get what's mine? I can't breathe. Not because I'm scared, but because something inside me has shifted. I've never felt more alive than I do right now. The air is thick with anticipation as I walk out of my parents' house. The walls feel like they're closing in on me, but I refuse to let them swallow me whole. No more silence. No more being ignored. No more pretending I don't matter. The game is on. I clutch the will in my hands like it's a weapon. It is, in many ways, a weapon that could dismantle everything my parents and Derek Harris have spent years building. But I can't do this alone. I need a plan, something strategic. I can't just walk in and take what's mine. They'll fight back, and they'll fight dirty. So I turn to the only person I trust right now, Margaret. Margaret's office is as cold and sterile as I remember. But today, it feels like a sanctuary. I walk in with determination in my step. My hands are still shaking, but I know what I need to do. "Emma," Margaret says, standing up as soon as she sees me, "I knew you'd be back. I'm glad you came. You're ready, aren't you?" I nod. There's no going back now. Margaret leads me to the conference table, where the large envelope containing the second will still sits, untouched. She pulls it open with a deliberate slowness, and as she lays out the documents in front of me, my pulse quickens. The weight of what's inside feels almost too much to bear, but I can't stop now. She looks at me, her gaze sharp. "You need to be smart about this. Emma, your parents aren't just going to hand this over. Your father has been planning this his whole life. This inheritance, it's his legacy. He won't let you just take it without a fight." I take a deep breath, my eyes scanning the papers in front of me. But even as I read, I know what needs to be done. I need to be 2 steps ahead of them. I can't just wait around for them to make the first move. It's time to make my own moves. "I don't care what they say," I reply, my voice firmer now. "I want what's mine. They've been controlling me my whole life. It's my turn to take control." Margaret nods, her face serious. "I understand, but it's going to take more than just standing up to them. You need to hit them where it hurts, and you need to be prepared for what they'll throw at you." I nod again. I'm ready. The plan is set. My strategy is clear. Now, it's time to execute. I gather everything I've learned, everything I've prepared, and start putting the pieces together. The first move, the house. Eleonora's house. The one my parents have always treated like their own personal trophy. The house where they've hosted their so-called family events. The place where Derek Harris was always the shining star, and I was nothing more than a shadow. I'm taking that house, and I'm not asking for permission. The next morning, I show up at the house. It's a grand place, too grand for my taste. Really. The kind of place that's meant to impress, meant to show the world how important you are. It's where my parents held all their gatherings, where I was made to feel small, insignificant. But today, it's mine. I walk through the front door, the keys to the house heavy in my hand. For a moment, I just stand there, taking it all in. The polished marble floors, the grand staircase, the expensive art on the walls. I've seen it all 1,000 times before. But today, it feels different. Today, it feels like a victory. My victory. As I step deeper into the house, I can hear the faint sound of footsteps approaching. I don't need to look to know who it is. It's Derek Harris. He steps into the foyer, his face unreadable. "You really think you can just take this from us?" he asks, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You think you're the heir now? The golden child." I turn to face him, meeting his gaze head on. It's not about being the golden child, Derek Harris. It's about what's rightfully mine. This house, this inheritance, it's mine, and you know it. He steps closer, his jaw clenched tight. "You think I'm going to let you walk away with it? You think Dad is just going to sit back and let this happen?" I stare him down, unflinching. I don't care what Dad thinks anymore. I'm done playing by his rules. Derek Harris opens his mouth to retort, but before he can get another word out, I hear the front door open again. This time, it's my father, Ryan Caldwell, the man who's spent his entire life building a legacy that he thought would be passed down to Derek Harris, the man who never once saw me for anything more than a nuisance. "You shouldn't have come here, Emma," he says, his voice cold, calculated. "You've made a huge mistake." I square my shoulders, ready for whatever comes next. The only mistake I made was listening to you for so long. My father's face hardens, his eyes narrowing. "This is my legacy, not yours. You don't belong here, and you never will." His words sting, but they don't break me, not anymore. I step closer to him, placing the documents from the will directly in his hands. "Then prove it. Prove I don't belong here. But you can't, can you? Because I do belong here, and you know it." I watch as his fingers curl around the papers. His expression flickers just for a second, and I can see it. The fear. The realization that he's losing control. Derek Harris steps forward, his voice rising. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning. Dad's not going to let you have this. You're not prepared for what's coming." I look from Derek Harris to my father, my mind racing. The next move is crucial. One wrong step, and it's over. But I can't back down now. I've come too far. And that's when the doorbell rings. The doorbell rings again, cutting through the tension in the room like a knife. I turn toward the door, my heart racing. I wasn't expecting anyone else. Who could it be now? I walk toward the door, unsure of what to expect. But when I open it, standing there is someone I never thought would show up, someone who could change everything. And what they're holding in their hand, it's a game changer. I stand frozen in the doorway, my hand still gripping the doorknob, staring at the person standing before me. It's Paul, my brother-in-law, the one person who's always been a quiet observer in this family, never fully part of the drama, but never entirely disconnected either. He's holding something in his hand, and it's immediately obvious that whatever it is, it's important. His eyes flicker to the envelope I've been holding my inheritance, and then back to me. "Emma," Paul says, his voice low and steady, but there's an edge to it I don't recognize. "I need to talk to you." I glance behind me, where Derek Harris and my father are still standing, their faces taut with anger and confusion. The tension in the room is suffocating. I've just walked into the lion's den, and now it seems like Paul is about to throw gasoline on the fire. I step aside, allowing him in. "What is it, Paul?" He closes the door behind him, the click of the lock echoing louder than it should. He stands there for a moment, looking from me to Derek Harris and my father. No words are spoken, but the room feels heavy with the unspoken. "You've made a big mistake," Paul finally says, his voice gruff. You don't know what you're up against. I frown, my pulse quickening. I know exactly what I'm up against. The truth. Paul shakes his head slowly. It's not that simple. There's more to this than you realize. He reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out a folded document. My heart skips a beat. Another will, another secret. My hands instinctively go to my side, and I feel the weight of the first will in my pocket, my grandmother's will, the one that promised me everything. But if this is a game, if they're playing me, then I can't afford to be naive anymore. Open it, Paul says, his eyes locking onto mine with a quiet intensity that unsettles me. It's time you knew the whole truth. I take the document from his hand, my fingers cold as I unfold it. The paper crackles in my grasp, and I try to steady my breathing. I don't know what I'm expecting, but the shock hits me anyway. The words in front of me don't just blur, they stab. It's not another will. It's a letter from my grandmother to Paul, written years ago, tucked away in a place I never thought to look. I knew I wouldn't be around to see this. The letter begins, but I'm writing this because I want to make sure Emma gets what she deserves. She will face resistance, I'm sure. But when the time comes, I want you to be the one to ensure she gets what's hers. My eyes dart over the page, reading the words in disbelief. This isn't just a letter about inheritance. It's a directive, a hidden plan. My grandmother had planned this all along. She knew about the tensions in the family. Paul continues, his voice quieter now, as if the weight of the moment is sinking in for him too. She knew your father, Derek Harris. They wouldn't let you have it without a fight, but she was prepared. She wanted you to have everything, and she made sure I'd help you get it. My mind races as the pieces fall into place. My grandmother wasn't just leaving me money and property. She was giving me the chance to finally step out of the shadows. She was trusting me to challenge my family. But, Paul adds, his voice becoming more serious, this comes with a cost. There's a reason she made me her ally in this, because, well, you need to understand this inheritance doesn't just belong to you. It's part of a bigger game, and the moment you make this public, your family will come after you in ways you can't even imagine. I swallow hard, feeling the sting of his words settle deep in my chest. The family I thought I could trust, my parents. Derek Harris. Even Aunt Laura, they would fight me. They would use every trick in the book to tear me down. I look up at Paul, the question burning in my mind. What does this mean? What do I do now? He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly places his hand on the envelope that's sitting between us. You can't trust anyone in this family. Emma, not even me. His words are blunt, but there's a strange honesty in them. But if you're serious about going through with this, about taking back what's yours, you need to think long and hard. The stakes are higher than you think. The air in the room feels thick. Derek Harris is standing near the doorway now, his posture tense, his jaw clenched as he watches this exchange unfold. My father hasn't moved. He's still standing in the same spot, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, his eyes narrowed. They're waiting for something. They're waiting for me to break. But I'm done breaking. Are you two done yet? Derek Harris interrupts, his voice laced with irritation. We all know why we're here, Emma. Just give it up already. This will never be yours. The family won't let you have it. You're a part of this family, but you're not one of us. His words sting more than they should, but instead of letting the anger rise up inside me, I keep my focus. This is exactly what I'm up against. Derek Harris has always believed he's the only one who matters. My father, too, has always treated me like a second-rate citizen, a shadow in their world. But not anymore. Now. They'll have to see me as a force to be reckoned with. I am one of you, I reply, my voice steady, and I'm taking what's mine, whether you like it or not. Derek Harris laughs, a bitter sound that makes my skin crawl. You think you can just waltz in here, pull the rug out from under all of us, and walk away with everything you've got no idea what you're doing, Emma. I meet his eyes, my hands trembling but my heart steady. Watch me. I turn to Paul, my eyes searching his. What's my next move? I ask quietly, barely above a whisper. He looks at me, his expression hardening. He's not giving me the answers I want, but I can see that he's not backing down either. He knows exactly what this is about. It's about power, control, the legacy that's been denied to me for so long. I can help, he says, his voice more guarded now. But remember, the more you push, the more they'll push back. And you're not the only one with secrets to hide. His words settle into my mind, and I realize something that's both liberating and terrifying. I'm not the only one playing this game. There's someone else with a stake in this family's dark legacy. I take a deep breath, feeling the weight of what's ahead pressing down on me. As I reach for the papers in front of me, something catches my eye, a name I wasn't expecting, a name that sends a chill down my spine. The name is familiar, too familiar. It's not just my family I need to worry about. Someone else has been watching, waiting for their chance, and they just made their move. The room feels smaller now. My pulse is louder than the sound of the ticking clock on the wall. I'm sitting across from my parents, Derek Harris standing just behind them, arms crossed, waiting for me to make the first move. There's an air of finality here, like the entire family is holding its breath, waiting for something to give. But what they don't know is that I've already made my move, and they don't get to decide what happens next. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but the words from the letter still echo in my mind. When the time comes, I want you to be the one to ensure she gets what she deserves. My grandmother's last wishes, the ones I've spent so much of my life questioning, have finally come to fruition. She was right. This is my time. And now, it's time to make sure that nothing gets in my way. My father, Ryan, looks at me with that same dismissive look he's always had. The look that says, "You're nothing but a burden to this family." But today, I don't flinch. Not like before. Not when I was the one who always had to apologize. Always had to fit into a mold that didn't make sense for me. Emma, this isn't just about money, my father says, his voice low and dangerous. This is about family, our legacy. You don't belong here. You never have. I swallow hard, but this time, it's not fear choking me. It's resolve. I do belong here, I reply, each word sharper than the last. I've always belonged here, and now I'm taking what's mine. Everything that's been kept from me, everything I've earned. This is mine. Derek Harris scoffs, stepping forward like he's the one who has the right to speak for everyone. You can't just waltz in and take everything. Emma, you think because someone says you can. It gives you the right to tear the family apart. It doesn't work that way. I look at him. The perfect son, the golden boy who's always been everything my father wanted me to be. The truth is, Derek Harris is scared, not of losing the inheritance, but of losing his place as the center of attention. You're right, Derek Harris, I say, leaning in just a little. It doesn't work that way, but you don't get to decide that anymore. You've always thought you could control everything, not anymore. I turn back to my father, the man who spent his life molding me into something I'm not. The man who's shown me time and time again that I'm just not enough. You've always been about control, haven't you? Dad, I continue, you made sure I knew that I was nothing, but now I'm here to take what's mine, and you can't stop me. Not this time. The room is thick with tension. It's almost suffocating. I can feel the anger simmering beneath my skin, rising up like a fire I can't extinguish. But something is different now. I'm not scared. I'm not that little girl hiding in the shadows anymore. My father opens his mouth to respond, but the sound of footsteps from the hallway stops him. The door creaks open. It's Aunt Laura. She steps into the room slowly, her eyes scanning the situation, assessing the battle unfolding before her. For a moment, I think she's going to say something to shut this all down. But she doesn't. Instead, she walks over to the table where the documents are laid out. She picks them up, flipping through the pages with a deliberateness that makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Emma's right," she says, her voice colder than I've ever heard it. "Everything Eleonora left her. It's not just money. It's about something bigger. Something that's been missing in this family for a long time." She places the papers back down, glancing at my father and Derek Harris. "You've manipulated everything for so long, Ryan and Derek Harris. You've always been the golden boy, but it's time to stop hiding behind the legacy you think you built. You didn't build this. Eleonora did." A silence falls over the room. My father's face is tight with fury. Derek Harris is standing still, eyes flickering from Laura to me and back to my father. This is a game they didn't expect, one they don't know how to play. "You think this will be easy," my father says, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. "You think I'll let you destroy everything I've worked for? You think I'll just roll over and hand you everything?" I meet his gaze, unwavering. "No, Dad, you won't. But I'm not asking for your permission anymore." The room is spinning. The walls feel like they're closing in on me. I thought I knew what I wanted, but in this moment, everything feels like it's teetering on the edge of a cliff. There's no turning back now. I turn to Aunt Laura, who has remained silent, but there's a small, almost imperceptible nod from her direction. It's like she's giving me permission. Not that I needed it, but it's there, and it makes me feel stronger. My father looks at Laura, then back at me. "You think you're the one who's been wronged. You think you've been the victim here." He spits. "Emma, you've always been the problem. You've never been a part of this family. And now you're trying to tear it apart just for money." I take a deep breath. The words he's saying are all too familiar, but now, they mean nothing. They're just noise. "I'm not tearing the family apart," I say, my voice steady, calm. I'm finally standing up for myself. For the first time, I'm putting myself first. Derek Harris steps forward, his voice low. "You can't do this. Emma, you think you've won? You're making a huge mistake." But I don't back down, not this time. The doorbell rings again. I look up, startled. My heart skips a beat. I wasn't expecting anyone else, but the doorbell continues to ring, and I feel a sense of dread wash over me. Who else could be involved in this mess? I stand up, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on me. I walk toward the door. My steps slow but deliberate. Each step feels like the one that's bringing me closer to everything I've worked for. When I open the door, I'm met with a face I never thought I'd see again. It's the last person I expected to show up, someone who can change everything. And they're holding something that could flip the entire situation upside down. "Emma," the person at the door says, their voice trembling with urgency. "You don't know what you're walking into, but I have something you need to see." The room falls silent again, and my heart races. I take a step back, my mind racing with a million possibilities. What's inside that envelope story? I'm Emily Turner, and I've spent the last 10 years of my life cleaning up my sister's messes. At 32 years old, I became an unpaid servant to my family, sacrificing my dreams, my savings, and my freedom to cover for her until the day I couldn't take it anymore. It started out simple. When Rachel, my older sister, couldn't pay her rent, I'd cover it. When her car broke down, I'd pay for the repairs. When she was fired from yet another job, Guess who was expected to make sure her bills were paid me? It wasn't just that I did it out of love. It was because I had no choice. Our parents, Diane and Robert, were living the good life, retired and always on cruises, sending me postcards from the Mediterranean, while I worked overtime just to keep Rachel afloat. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being used. The moment I realized it wasn't just temporary, that this was becoming my life, my stomach turned. The weight of it crushed me every day. You know the feeling being stuck, giving and giving until you're empty inside. It's like the world just keeps taking, and you're left with nothing. That's exactly how I felt. But here's the twist. I was the one who had been taken advantage of for years. My sister. My parents, they all saw me as the one who would just keep giving. But I had a breaking point, and when I reached it, everything changed. Before I tell you exactly how my sister, Rebecca, and my family betrayed me, how they left me drowning, make sure to hit that like button if you believe family should never tear each other apart. And don't forget to subscribe because the truth is coming, and you don't want to miss it. Here's what happened. My sister, Rebecca, she stole my identity. Not literally, but she might as well have. She took everything, my money, my time, and worst of all, my family's loyalty. And they all stood by her. But you know what? That's over. It's time for me to take everything back. I loved them. I tried to be there for them, to be the one who always stepped in. But this, she gestures to the photo. This wasn't love. It was manipulation. And I'm done being the victim in my own story. It wasn't always like this. Though, I didn't start out feeling like this. When Rachel and I were kids, we were close. I took care of her when she was struggling, when things weren't going right for her. I covered for her when she was late on her rent, when she was going through another breakup. I didn't mind. Family's supposed to do that. Right, Emily, I need help. I can't pay the rent this month. Can you cover it? Just this once, please. I swear it'll be the last time. Yeah, I swore it would be the last time. But it wasn't. I kept giving, and she kept taking. And soon, it wasn't just rent. It was utilities, groceries, her daughter's tuition, and my dreams. All of them just stayed on hold. And no one noticed. Not my parents, not Rachel. Then one day, after years of this, I saw something that changed everything. Rebecca had just gotten a new job, finally an administrative assistant at a local insurance company. She was making decent money. She didn't need me anymore, or so I thought. Instead of seeing her stand up on her own, instead of hearing her say, "Thank you," or at least, "I got this," she started showing up to family gatherings flaunting her new stuff, new clothes, a new car, Instagram posts of her in designer bags while I was still scrambling to make sure her rent was paid. And I kept paying. I thought it was for Lily, my niece. She needed me, right. But the more I saw, the angrier I became. I couldn't keep doing this. Not anymore. I'm thinking about getting this beautiful bag. It's just $700, but it's designer. It's a bit of a splurge. But, you know, it'll last forever. $700 for a purse. And yet, I'm still paying your rent. Rebecca, how is that even possible? That's when I knew. I knew I couldn't let it go on any longer. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was furious. And that night, something inside me snapped. That was the turning point. I wasn't just the person who paid her bills. I wasn't just the one who bailed everyone out. I was Emily Turner, the woman who had given everything, but was now done being used. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell you exactly how I took back my life, how I made sure they all paid for what they did, how I turned the tables, and how you can, too. Because sometimes, taking back control is the only way to move forward. You won't believe how far I went. Stay tuned. And trust me, it was worth it. The weight of everything had been building for years. But today was different. Today, I wasn't Emily Turner, the one who worked double shifts at a thankless job, paying bills she shouldn't have to. I was about to be the woman who would no longer tolerate being used. I was going to fight back. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. I was sitting in my small apartment, the same one I'd lived in for 5 years, working at a desk that was too small for the stack of bills next to me. It was a Friday night. The rain had been pouring all day, and the sound of it hitting the window only added to the noise inside my head. My phone buzzed again. "Hey, Em, I need help with rent this month. I've got to pay for Lily's school supplies, and I can't do it without you. Please help. I don't know who else to turn to." Another message from Rebecca. It wasn't the first time I'd seen one like it. I had stopped counting how many times I'd sent money over the years. But this time was different. This time, I wasn't going to keep doing it. I threw my phone on the table, feeling my chest tighten. How many times had I sacrificed my own future for her? She doesn't even know what sacrifice means. And that's when I felt the shift, the anger, the betrayal. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done being her safety net, her fallback, her unpaid assistant. She was never going to change. And it wasn't just her, my parents. They had enabled her too. Every time she made a mistake, I was the one who had to clean up the mess. And they did nothing. I thought back to the day my mom called me to talk about Rachel. My mom, Diane, who never once asked me how I was doing, but always wanted to know how Rachel was doing. "Emily, Rachel's been going through a rough patch again. She really needs you. You're the strong one. You can handle it." "Mom, I'm struggling too," I had said. But her voice had grown distant as she started talking about their next vacation to the Caribbean. "And my dad, don't get me started on him, Robert Turner. The retired lawyer who never worked a day in his life after he hit 60, spending his days golfing while I worked 50-plus-hour weeks. He'd always nod his approval for Rachel. 'She's got so much potential,' he'd say, while completely ignoring the fact that I was keeping everything afloat. I was invisible. The tension between us had been brewing for years, but that day, it all came to a head. I had just finished another double shift, exhausted, barely able to think straight. I walked into my parents' house, already knowing what I'd face. The awkward looks, the silence that followed my every word. I was used to it by now, but tonight was different. We were all gathered around the dinner table, a rare occurrence. Mom and Dad were at the ends, Rachel next to them, and me in the corner. It felt like high school again, me, the outcast, the one no one really cared about, just doing everything in the background to make sure the show went on. And as usual, Rebecca was the center of attention. "I'm thinking about getting this new bag," Rebecca said, nonchalantly pulling up an image on her phone. "It's a $7 purse, but it's designer. It'll last forever." I froze mid-bite, my fork hanging in the air, my stomach twisted. The words I had been holding back for so long started to bubble to the surface. "You're thinking about spending $700 on a purse while I'm still paying your rent." The words left my mouth before I could stop them. My voice surprisingly calm, though my hands were shaking. The table fell silent. My mom shifted uncomfortably in her seat, suddenly very interested in the salad on her plate. My dad took a long sip of coffee, pretending to be engrossed in the newspaper. And Rebecca. She just laughed, that same dismissive, condescending laugh that always made me want to scream. "Don't be so cheap." "Emily," she sneered, "you make good money with all that overtime. Why don't you treat yourself?" I couldn't believe it. She didn't even feel a hint of guilt. How had I allowed myself to become this invisible? How had I let them treat me like this? I pushed my chair back and stood up, barely able to control the rage inside. Let's talk about cheap. Rebecca. The room was suffocating. I could feel the eyes of my parents on me, but they didn't say a word. Instead, they silently agreed with Rebecca, their indifference louder than any words they could have spoken. I turned to walk out, my anger spiking with every step. I was done. Done with the lies. Done with the manipulation. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I didn't even hear the phone ring that night. But when I finally checked it, there was a message from Rebecca. She was moving back in with Mom and Dad. And it wasn't just that. She had a new revelation. I'm moving back in with Mom and Dad. They offered. They don't want Lily to suffer because of your tantrum. My blood ran cold. They had gone behind my back. They had offered her a way out. But it wasn't just the betrayal that hit me hardest. It was what Rebecca said next. By the way, you might want to check your credit report. She hung up before I could say a word. I'm done. If they want to play this game, then let's play it their way. I'll make sure they regret it. They didn't think I was capable of fighting back. They underestimated me, all of them. But I had one thing they didn't, the truth. And I was about to use it. I was still staring at the credit report, my hand frozen over the mouse. The page in front of me blurred as my thoughts ran wild. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There, in black and white, was a list of charges I had never made. Rachel's name, but with my credit card number attached. I sat back in my chair, my head spinning. How long had this been going on? I could feel my pulse quicken, my breath coming in short gasps. She had been using my identity, not just once, but over and over. Every time she needed something, she had simply charged it to my account, and I had never known. I felt sick. But then something inside me clicked. This was the moment. This was the proof I needed to take control, to finally end this twisted game they had been playing at my expense. I wasn't going to just pay her bills anymore. I was going to expose her for the fraud she was. I could hear the sound of my parents' voices echoing in my head, dismissing my struggles, acting like I was just the responsible one. I had lived under their roof for years, always doing what they expected of me, sacrificing everything while they floated through life, collecting their retirement checks and living for the next vacation. They had no idea what I was going through. But Rachel, she knew, and she didn't care. I slammed my fist on the desk, the sharp sound making me jump. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. The anger I felt was like a fire burning inside me, but it was no longer the uncontrollable kind. This anger was my power. This was it. This was my plan. I was going to get everything back. I was going to stop letting them use me. The next morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The night before, I had started making calls, contacting the bank, reaching out to a lawyer I had met a few months ago when I was looking into some personal matters. His name was Darren, and he was a small-time attorney. But he had the right contacts. He knew how to handle things like this, like family members who take advantage of you. I wasn't about to go to the cops just yet, though that would be a last resort. I needed to be smart about this. I needed to gather my evidence first, make sure I had everything in place. I didn't want to make any hasty moves that could backfire. I walked into the office that morning, trying to act like everything was normal. My coworkers gave me sympathetic looks, knowing I'd been working extra shifts to pay for Rachel's mess. Jake, one of my colleagues, noticed me right away. He was always looking out for me, always worried. He had become a good friend over the past few years. "You okay?" he asked, his brow furrowing as he saw the exhaustion on my face. I didn't want to admit how much I was breaking down, so I just gave him a tight smile. "Yeah, just tired," I said, forcing my voice to sound lighter than it felt. But Jake wasn't buying it. "You've been saying that for months, Em. You don't have to do this alone. You know, we're all here for you." I looked at him, feeling that familiar wave of guilt. I had always been the one who took care of everything. Who else would? Who else would handle the fallout of what was about to happen? I appreciate it, really, Jake, but this is something I need to do, for me. And I meant it. I couldn't keep being the person who just covered up everyone else's messes. If I wanted to move on, to really get out of this suffocating cycle, I had to stand up for myself. I had to fight back. The first move I made was subtle. I called a few of Rachel's old friends, the ones she had relied on for help when things went wrong. I knew some of them had her number. I knew some of them would still talk to me, and that's when I got the information I needed. "She's been taking money from you," one of them asked, clearly shocked. "For years," I said, the words tasting bitter on my tongue, and she never once told me, not a single thank you. Nothing. I could hear the hesitation in her voice. "I didn't know it was that bad. I thought you were helping her out, like family does." That's what I thought too. I made a mental note of her name and number. Rachel had been playing all of us for fools, and the more I gathered, the clearer it became. I wasn't just the person who was being taken advantage of. I was the person who had been left in the dark, while everyone else got away with it. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table, going through the pile of receipts I had kept over the years. Some of them were from credit card statements, others from loans I'd taken out in order to cover things. As I dug deeper, I realized something else. Rebecca was spending money on things I had no idea about. There were luxury vacation packages to places I couldn't even afford to visit, designer furniture, a new car. It was like I had been feeding her habits, enabling her to live a life I could never have. And my parents, they never even noticed. They still praised Rebecca for being the responsible one, the one who just needed a little time to get back on her feet. I took out a pen and wrote a few lines on a piece of paper. My plan beginning to take shape. I was going to make this public. I was going to show them all how deep Rebecca's lies ran. But I needed to be strategic. This wasn't just about exposing her, it was about showing my family that I wasn't the weak link. I was about to flip the script, and they wouldn't see it coming. The next morning, I met with Darren. He was a small-time lawyer with a reputation for getting things done. He had the sharp, confident energy I needed. He'd been helpful when I had legal questions in the past, and now I needed his advice. "You have a strong case, Emily," Darren said after reviewing the documents I handed him. "But we need more. We need proof of fraud, and we need to hit them where it hurts legally." I nodded, taking everything in. This was just the beginning, but I didn't know what I was walking into next. As I left Darren's office, I received a text, one that would change everything. It was from my mom. "We need to talk. Rebecca's moving back in, and we need your help with something." I knew what they were asking, and I knew I had to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. The text from my mom still lingered in my mind, the words bouncing around inside my head like an echo. "We need to talk. Rebecca's moving back in, and we need your help with something." It was the same message they always sent me, the one where they needed something, but always in a way that made it clear I was the one who had to sacrifice. I was the one who had to bend. I wanted to ignore it, to just leave my phone on the counter and walk away. But something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be that person anymore. I dialed my mom's number and waited as it rang. 1 ring, 2 rings. "Hey, Mom," I said when she picked up, trying to keep my voice steady. I didn't want her to hear how rattled I felt. "Emily, thank God you answered. We need to talk about Rebecca. She's been going through a rough patch, and—" I could already hear the familiar excuses forming in her voice, the same ones I had heard 100 times. She needed me. Rebecca needed me. Everyone needed me. I was so tired of being the one who always stepped in, the one who had to save the day. "Mom, we need to talk about something else. About Rebecca." I interrupted, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I know what she's been doing, and I'm not helping her anymore. Not with money, not with anything. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could almost hear the gears turning in my mother's head, trying to process what I was saying. What do you mean? Em, you're the one who's always been there for her. You're the one who keeps everything together. Don't you want to help your sister? I could feel my jaw tightening, my heart pounding in my chest. Help her. Mom, she's been stealing from me, I said, forcing the words out, feeling them weigh me down as I spoke them, using my credit card, charging things to my account, things I can't afford. And you've been enabling her. There was another pause, this one stretching longer than before. Stealing from you, my mom said, her voice shaky now. Are you sure maybe it's just misunderstandings? I have the proof. Mom, I have the receipts. I've been paying for everything, while she just keeps living like she's got it all figured out. The silence on the other end was thick. I could hear my mother breathing heavily, unsure of how to respond. It was finally happening. I was finally saying what needed to be said. I'm done. Mom, I've been done for a while. The words spilled out of me before I could stop them. I'm not going to keep fixing things for her. I'm not going to keep fixing things for you. Her voice cracked. You don't mean that. We're family. Emily, family sticks together. No, I said firmly, feeling the weight of it in my chest. Family doesn't use you. Family doesn't let you drown. I hung up the phone before she could say anything else. My heart was racing. But the anger was starting to shift into something else, relief. For the first time in years, I had made a decision that wasn't about keeping everyone happy. It was about me. The following days were a blur of calls and messages from my parents, pleading with me to come over, to talk things out. But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to stick to my plan. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me back into the role of the good daughter. Not when I had already given so much. I had been planning this for a while now, taking back control. I had started digging through my past interactions with Rebecca. Every time she'd asked for help, I'd been there, every single time. But what I found buried beneath all the receipts, all the apologies, and the promises she'd made, was something far worse. She had been lying to me. I dug into every loan I'd ever given her, every emergency I had covered. And then I saw the pattern. Every time Rachel asked for money, she wasn't just borrowing, it was like she was entitled to it, like I owed her. And I had fallen into that trap, over and over, but no more. I had a list, a long list of everything she had done to me, and now I had a choice. I called Darren. I need to make this right. I told him, my voice firm. I need to make sure Rebecca can't get away with this anymore. Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment, a glass of wine in my hand, as I stared at the documents in front of me. There it was, the evidence, the bills I had paid for her, the loans, the receipts, the transactions I had never approved. This was going to be my weapon. I was going to show them, my family, Rebecca, that I wasn't the weak one anymore. I wasn't just going to confront them. I was going to take back everything they had taken from me. But first, I needed to make sure I was ready. I couldn't go in blind, couldn't let my emotions take over. This was about justice, my justice. The phone rang again. This time, it was from my mom. I hesitated, staring at the screen for a moment, but I wasn't going to pick up. I couldn't. Not until I was ready. And then the text came. We need to talk about the family's future. You're breaking us apart. It was from my dad. The words hit me hard, and for a moment, I felt that familiar wave of guilt rise up again. What was I doing? Was I really going to tear my family apart? But then I remembered everything I had sacrificed, everything I had put on hold, the years spent being the invisible one, the one who never mattered. I'm done, I whispered to myself. And that was when I made my final decision. Just as I began to feel the power of my decision, the phone rang again. This time, it wasn't from my parents. It was from Rebecca. The message read, "I need to talk to you. I know what you're doing." What did she know? How much had she figured out? I knew my next move had to be perfect. I stared at my phone. The message from Rebecca still lingered on the screen. The words repeating in my mind, "I need to talk to you. I know what you're doing." My pulse spiked. What did she know? How much had she figured out? Had she already seen the cracks I had been hiding? Or was this just another one of her games? Another attempt to manipulate me into helping her once more? I took a deep breath, gripping my phone tighter. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to be the person who was always expected to clean up someone else's mess. Not anymore. I typed a quick response. "What do you want, Rebecca?" Seconds ticked by like hours. My heart raced. She'd always been the one who controlled the narrative, who twisted the truth, making me out to be the unreasonable one. But now, I was in control. Finally, the 3 little dots appeared, signaling her response. "We need to meet. It's about family. Come to Mom and Dad's house tonight. We'll talk there." I swallowed hard. Mom and Dad's house. I hadn't stepped foot inside that house in days, weeks. And now, I was being asked to return, to face them, to face the people who had enabled this madness for so long. I knew what they would say. "You're being too harsh on Rebecca. She's your sister. She's been through a lot." But I wasn't buying it anymore. They had seen what she was doing, and they had ignored it. But there was one thing I hadn't prepared for. That evening, as I stood outside my parents' house, the weight of my decision hit me like a ton of bricks. The porch light flickered, casting a soft glow over the front yard. The same yard I had run through as a child, chasing my brother and Rebecca, laughing together as if we were a perfect family. How naive I had been. Now, everything felt different. The house that once felt like home now felt suffocating. This was no longer a place of warmth. It was the place where lies had been born, where my betrayal had started. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. The door swung open, and there stood my mother, looking as perfect as always, with her makeup flawless and her hair styled neatly. "Emily." "Darling, I'm so glad you're here," she said, her voice sweet, but I could hear the tension beneath it. "Hi, Mom," I forced the words out. I had been dreading this moment for days. Behind her, I saw Rebecca sitting at the kitchen table, her face expressionless. There was no warmth in her smile. She had the look of someone who was prepared for battle. She knew what was coming. She knew I was done playing the part of the good daughter. "Come on in," my mom said, stepping aside. "We've all been so worried about you." As I stepped inside, I tried to hold it together. I had my plan. I knew what I was going to say. But as I looked around at the familiar surroundings, my father's old leather chair, the family photos on the walls, the perfectly polished hardwood floors, I felt a pang of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Guilt. It almost made me turn around and walk out. Almost. But then I remembered everything that had brought me here. The years of sacrificing my own well-being. The years of being invisible while they let Rebecca run wild. I sat down at the table, across from Rebecca. I looked her straight in the eye, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "What's this all about?" I asked. She didn't respond at first. Instead, she shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but she was trying to hide it, trying to hold on to the image she had always used to manipulate me, the image of the helpless little sister who just needed help. "I don't know why you're acting like this. Emily," Rebecca finally said, her voice defensive. "We're family. Don't you want to fix things?" I couldn't help but laugh, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "Fix things? You're asking me to fix things?" I shook my head, the disbelief overwhelming me. "How many times have I fixed things for you, Rebecca? How many times have I paid your rent, paid your bills, cleaned up your messes? And you know what? You never once thanked me. You never once tried to fix anything on your own." Her eyes hardened. "You're being dramatic. You know I needed help. You know I couldn't do it alone." I leaned forward, my fists clenched. "You could have done it, but you didn't want to. You wanted me to do it for you, because you knew I would." "Emily," my mom interrupted, her voice sharp now. "This is not the time for this. We need to talk about how we can move forward as a family." But I wasn't listening anymore. I wasn't playing that game. Not anymore. I turned to Rebecca, my voice low but full of fury. "You don't get to manipulate me anymore. You don't get to use me. Not this time." I pulled out the stack of receipts I had printed out, slamming them on the table between us. "Here, this is the proof of everything you've done, everything you've stolen from me." Her face went pale, for a moment. She looked genuinely shaken, but it didn't last. "This is ridiculous. This is not what family does." She stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back. "You're overreacting." But it wasn't overreaction. It was truth. And now she was going to face it. I stood up too, feeling the adrenaline surge through me. "You're right. This is what family does. But not in the way you think. Family doesn't take. It doesn't use. It doesn't ignore the pain they've caused. And it doesn't let someone walk all over them." "Rebecca." She flinched, but I didn't stop. I was done being afraid of her. Just as Rebecca opened her mouth to respond, the door slammed open. My dad stood in the doorway, his face red, his eyes wild with anger. What the hell is going on here? I froze. The game had just changed. What was he about to say? Was this the breaking point? What would happen now? The air in the room went cold the second my dad walked in. His face was red. His fists clenched at his sides as he stepped forward, blocking the doorway. "What the hell is going on here?" His voice was low, dangerous, the kind of tone he used when he was about to explode. I didn't say a word. The receipts were still on the table, scattered between us like evidence in a crime scene. Rebecca was standing near the kitchen counter, her arms crossed, but she didn't look confident anymore. "Dad, this isn't what you think," Rebecca said quickly, her voice unsteady. Her usual bravado was gone, replaced by something much more vulnerable. "What is going on?" My dad's voice grew louder, and I could see the frustration in his eyes. "I get home and hear this mess. Emily, you're turning this whole family upside down. For what is it you want?" I could feel my heart racing, the anger rising again. It was almost suffocating, trying to hold everything back while my dad stood there, demanding answers I didn't owe him. I had to remind myself that I wasn't the one causing the chaos. They had done this to themselves. They had watched me drown for years, and still expected me to be the one to clean up their mess. "What do I want?" "Dad," I said, my voice cutting through the tension in the room. "I want to stop being the one who fixes everything. I'm not your scapegoat anymore, and I'm not going to be Rebecca's personal ATM either." My dad flinched, as if the words had physically hit him. Rebecca's face went white, her lips trembling. For a moment, I thought maybe they'd finally heard me. Maybe this would be the moment things shifted. But it didn't last. "This is ridiculous!" My dad spat, glaring at me. "You're tearing this family apart over some stupid receipts. She's your sister, Emily. She needs you." The words hit like a slap, and I had to bite my tongue to keep from screaming. "No, Dad," I said, standing up, my hands shaking from the effort it took to control the rage that bubbled up. What Rebecca needs is to grow up, to take responsibility for her own life. But you've never let her do that, have you? You've always been there to bail her out, to make sure she never has to face the consequences of her actions. I could feel the room tightening around me, as if everything was closing in. My dad's face was flushed, and his jaw was set in a grim line. But what really hurt was the look on Rebecca's face. She wasn't angry anymore. She was terrified. Terrified of losing the grip she had always had on me, on this family. "Dad, this isn't just about money," I said, trying to calm myself down, but the words were coming faster now. "This is about trust. You don't see it, but I've been living in the shadow of your expectations my whole life. You've always been proud of Rachel for being perfect, the golden child. But I've been stuck picking up the pieces while you both turned a blind eye. I'm not doing it anymore." My dad looked at Rebecca, who was now staring down at the table, her hands twisting together. "Is this true?" he asked her, his voice softer, but no less intense. Rebecca didn't answer at first. She looked up at him, her eyes welling with tears. She tried to say something, but her voice cracked, and she took a step back. I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she muttered, her voice so small it was almost unrecognizable. I don't know how to fix it. I just needed help." It was the same thing she always said. I need help. That was the lie, the manipulation. She always needed help when things got too hard, when she made a mess of her life, and I was always the one there to pick her up. But not anymore. Not now. "No more lies. Rebecca," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "No more excuses. You're an adult. It's time to start acting like one." There was a long, suffocating silence after that. I watched as Rebecca's shoulders hunched in, her face turning away, the mask of confidence she'd worn for so long slipping away. For the first time, she wasn't the one calling the shots. And that's when my dad did something I didn't expect. He turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, something close to regret. "Emily," he said, his voice low, almost pleading. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I've been too hard on you. But we're family. We've always been family. Don't let this tear us apart. I've been proud of you for so long, but you can't just cut everyone off." I looked at him, my heart heavy. Part of me wanted to break down, to reach out and hug him like I used to when I was younger. But I couldn't. Not anymore. The truth had already been laid bare, and there was no going back. "I'm not cutting anyone off. Dad," I said, shaking my head, "I'm just setting boundaries. I'm not going to be your scapegoat anymore. And I'm not going to be Rebecca's. We're all adults here. It's time to start acting like it." Rebecca shifted uncomfortably in her chair, and I could see her swallowing hard, trying to hold back the tears. "I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't mean for things to get this out of control. I just wanted to live like everyone else. Like you, Em. I never wanted to hurt you." The words were soft, broken, but I wasn't sure they were real. I wasn't sure I could believe her anymore. She had manipulated me for so long that I couldn't tell the difference between her apologies and her manipulation. Just as I was about to respond, the door slammed open again. This time, it wasn't my dad. It was Mom, and she was holding something in her hands. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. "Emily, we need to talk. There's something you don't know." I looked at her, my heart sinking. What now? Was there more? Was there something else I had missed? The room seemed to go still, the air thick with tension. What had she found? What was she about to reveal? The weight of the moment hung thick in the air. My mom stood there in the doorway, holding something in her hands, a small envelope. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. She looked almost afraid. "Emily, we need to talk. There's something you don't know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I felt the room spin for a second. My heart was racing, and a chill ran down my spine. What was it? What was she about to reveal? I had already exposed so much of the truth, hadn't I? What more could there be? More. I exchanged a glance with Rebecca, whose eyes were wide, her breath shallow. She didn't know either. For a moment, no one moved. It felt like time had stopped. But then, my mom stepped forward, slowly, her hand trembling as she handed me the envelope. "Read it," she said, her voice shaking now. I hesitated. The last thing I needed was another bombshell. But I couldn't turn away. I slowly tore open the envelope. The paper inside crisp, but my hands were too clammy to hold it steady. The letter was short. "Emily, I know what you've found out, but there's something I've been keeping from you for a long time. This is my fault. I made sure you never knew the truth. But it's time you understood." I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. I glanced up at my mom, but she was already looking away, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Mom, what is this? What are you saying?" My voice was tight, almost a whisper. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she turned her face toward the window, staring out at the yard like she was seeing something in the distance, something she couldn't face. "I never wanted you to find out like this, but you need to know what's been going on. The money, the lies, the secrets. Rebecca wasn't the only one using you." I blinked. "Why?" The room seemed to tilt for a moment. My mind was scrambling to catch up. "You," I whispered. I didn't know how to stop it. Emily. I didn't know how to fix what I'd started. And I thought if I kept pretending everything was fine, everything would work out. But it didn't. And it wasn't just Rebecca. It was me, too. I used you, Emily. I used your kindness, your sense of duty, your love for us, all of us. I couldn't breathe. The air around me felt suffocating. Everything I had believed, everything I had worked so hard for was being called into question. My mother, the one person I thought I could trust, had been a part of this. She had been enabling Rebecca's behavior, just like my dad had, all these years. I had believed they were the ones who didn't know, who didn't understand what Rebecca had been doing to me. But they did know. They just didn't care. I turned to Rebecca, who was sitting in stunned silence, her hands folded on the table in front of her. She knew too. I looked back at my mom, feeling my heart sink into my stomach. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would you do this?" Her eyes filled with tears as she took a deep breath, finally looking me in the eye. "I was scared, Emily. Scared that if I didn't keep you around, if I didn't keep you doing everything for us, we'd fall apart. But we were falling apart anyway." For the first time, I saw the cracks in her carefully constructed mask. My mom, the strong, perfect woman I had always thought I could never live up to, was just as broken as I had been. And now, everything was exposed. The silence between us felt like it could swallow the room whole. My mind was a blur of anger, betrayal, and confusion. What now? What was I supposed to do with all of this? Everything I had believed about my family, the foundation I had built my life on, had crumbled, and now I had to figure out what was real. I glanced at my dad, who had been sitting silently in the corner the whole time, his face ashen. Dad, I said, my voice shaking now, what about you? You knew too, didn't you? He didn't say anything at first, his eyes avoiding mine. Finally, he nodded, a deep, heavy sigh escaping him. I didn't want to lose you. Emily, you were the one who held this family together, and I didn't want to admit that we were part of the problem. But you were right. We all used you. The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't process it all. I had been so angry at Rebecca, at how she had used me. But in the end, it had been my entire family. They had all used me. I stood up abruptly, pacing across the room, my mind swirling. I needed to move. I needed space to think. I can't believe this. I can't believe you all let me carry this burden alone. My voice was barely a whisper, but it felt like it was shaking the walls. I stopped by the door, looking back at them. I gave everything. I gave my time, my energy, my money, my life. And for what? So you could keep pretending everything was fine. I turned back, my heart beating faster. I'm done. I'm done playing this part. Done pretending to be the good daughter. I'm done being the one who holds this family together. I turned to leave, but before I could reach the door, I heard a voice. Emily, don't go. I froze. It was Rebecca, and her words made my blood run cold. I need you to hear me out. I need you to understand why I did everything I did. It wasn't just about money. It was about something else. I turned slowly. What could she possibly say now? What was the truth she was hiding? Stay tuned for the final chapter of this journey. The truth has been exposed, but is there more we don't know?